Hello there and welcome. My name is Bruce Rain from Rankus Creations and I'm a Macaholic. I would like to thank everyone who has jumped on to the stream today. Let's just have a quick look. Hello Jay, thank you for joining. Hello Trina, missed you yesterday. I'm sure you have a very good excuse for not seeing my stream. Maybe because I stream so late in the day. Hello Nate, hello Tom. Hello Dana, hello Captain 318, hello Crazy Tech Reviews, hello Scarlet Swordfish, hello Raphael Salcedo, Zombie Geek, Tech and Music. We've got a good group here. As the description or the name of this video might suggest, I'm going to be recapping a Macintosh IIfx. Which is a bit of a rarity for me. In actual fact, it's the very first IIfx I have ever recapped. They're around for sale, but they don't come up very often, and they're usually extremely expensive when they do. This is the IIfx board here. As you can see, it's a big sucker. I've got no idea how I'm going to fit this in my ultrasonic cleaner, but that's a challenge for another day. Michael, thank you for joining. So anyhow, the Macintosh IIfx, which was released in 1990, it is a big board, Trina. It is still not as big as a Quadra 900. It is big, but the 900 is got about an extra inch on the end there. So yeah, so it is a big board, but not the biggest of the old vintage. But yeah, so this is around about the same size as a Mac 2 or a Mac 2X. Yeah, as I say, it was released in 1990, which of course is the same year that Macintosh Classic came out. And we know how much fun we have with capacitors on the Macintosh Classic. Now, this was obviously one of the Macintosh 2 series. At the time it came out, it was the fastest Mac that Apple made. Prior to that, the fastest Mac, I think from memory, was the Macintosh 2 CI, which I think was 20 or 25 megahertz 68030. I think it was 20, but I could be completely wrong with that. This one, of course, came out and it was 40 megahertz, which was a big speed bump. And this was the fastest Mac you could buy at the time, and it was pretty darn amazing. Wicked fast. There we go. Straight from the marketing materials. Wicked fast. And of course, one of the annoyances with this was the fact that it used slightly different RAM. It used RAM sort of like this. You can see it's got the little notch in the bottom there. It's not just the straight 30-pin RAM of the Macs that preceded it. This was now, I think it was 62-pin or something like that. Real rarity, and as I mentioned in my stream yesterday, the only other Apple computer to use, or Apple device to use RAM like this, was the LaserWriter 2 NTX. So anyhow, the big problem with these is even if you manage to get hold of the IIfx, it can often be very difficult to get hold of RAM for it. And I think this is a ROM sim. Yeah, ROM sim, there we go, righty there. So we'll have a closer look at it a little bit later on, but if you thinking of this along the lines of the Mac 2 and the Mac 2X, this was sort of, it was in the same form factor. It was that large modular design, so you could put 2 floppy drives in it and like a 5 1/4 inch hard drive or 2 3.5 inch hard drives. There was it was a pretty great little Mac. I mean, it was the big powerhouse. I did work with one when I used to work in a studio back in the 90s. I did actually have one of these that I worked with, and I really wish I had asked the owners of that company if I could keep it all those years later, but never mind. It has quite a lot of these. Let's just go to a little side view here. It has quite a lot of these surface mount electrolytic capacitors, which we know give us a great deal of grief. 14 as a matter of fact. But it also has a few of these axial capacitors like this, these little round ones with a wire coming out of each end. So I'm going to replace those as well, even though these generally aren't the cause of problems on these. So we'll have a little look. Now this has come to me Hello, David. Thank you for joining. Okay, so where I grew up with an IIfx, and it was smooth as silk for many years. Here's an interesting thing about the Mac IIfx. Now, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you could actually run System 6.05 on these. Now, of course, these days, why would you run System 6? You'd be running System 7.0 or 7.1 or something like that. But can you imagine how fast this would go on System 6.05? I mean, that was a pretty lightweight operating system. I mean, you could run 6.05 like on a Macintosh Plus, and I mean, you could run 6.05 on this, and I mean, it would have just been. I mean, it would have been absolutely amazing to use a computer like this on 6.05. It would have just been absolutely flying. So, yeah. So it has socketed CPU here. This is the CPU, the 68030 40 megahertz right there, and it has a little socketed 68882 floating point unit math coprocessor there, and they are obviously removable. It has two battery holders. One is for the PRAM, one is for the startup circuit, the same as the 2 and the 2X. So you need two batteries to start this up, and if you don't have the batteries in there, it won't start. It has been sent to me in a not working state, but I want to just go over a couple of things with these Mac 2, 2X, 2CI, 2CX, 2FX. There are two different types of not working, and I want to work out if it is type 1, type 2, or both. So less caps than I thought would be on a board of that size. Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at like an LC575 or something, there's something like, I don't know, 6 caps on there or something like that. The fact that this one has 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 big caps that we're going to have to replace on this. It's certainly one of the bigger recapping undertakings. Maybe not as bad as an LC3 or something like that, but still. So anyhow, I have a cheat sheet here. Anyone who goes looking for this on my Recap a Mac website, you will not find it as yet, unless you're watching this later on as a replay, in which case it might be up there by then. I have built the guide, I just haven't had a chance to get it up on the website yet. So this is, this is going to be added to the website very soon. Yes, that's right. There's not a lot going on over here, Dana. There's a lot of space here for obviously the NuBus slots. Now this also doesn't have any internal video, which means you need to have a NuBus card if you want to get any video out on this. Thank you, Jay, for that little plug. I do appreciate it. Okay, so what I'm probably going to do to start off with, I mean, unless anyone has any questions about the 2FX or wants to ask any questions about it, I will probably start inspecting it, and we'll go on and have a look at a few things and just point out a few things. And as I said, what I said before about the idea of two different types of not working. So now I've got to. Let me just. I'm just going to go and quickly check on the old job ticket and just see if there is anything else in there I should know. Right, here we go. Where are we? 2FX. This one here. Pardon me. That is. Let's see what it said. Nope. Neither. Okay, so he sent me two of these at the same time. One of them's got some fairly nasty battery damage, and then we've got this one here, which is the cleaner of the two. Neither works. So yeah, all right. So I'm going to test this. I don't have a 2FX power supply or a 2FX board, but I do have, a 2FX power supply or a 2FX case, but I do have enough in order to test this. All right, so first thing we're going to do is just have a quick little inspection with the microscope. It's going to be a bit of a pain working with this today because it is so big. I did try and clear off a little bit of desk space, but it's not enough for this one. So let's just have a look at some of these caps and see the state of them to start off with. This is rather cumbersome. There we go. Okay. And change. We've got our little 47 microfarad 16 volt. There's definitely, we can see there's leakage coming out of that. We can see all the electrolyte around the outside. You can see this kind of smeariness going on. Let me just grab a little cotton bud Q-tip thing. Okay. And you can see all of that scunge. It's quite liquid, so that's definitely scunge. Down here we see this little D2 and D3. That's part of the startup circuit. You know, that's around where I would generally be looking. I can also see right here. What's that? What's him? What's going on? What? Why do I have a solder ball on there? Oz RetroComp, thank you for joining. Okay. Okay, right. Just having a look here. My 2SI still won't work. Just realised all the RAM is wrong. The floppy drive won't work. No sound, and I have no idea what to do with it. And any ideas? You can send it to me. I'll be happy to look at it. Okay, so we're just continuing to have a look around. Now, ooh, look at what we have here. Then we've got some hidden trace rot going on in there, so we're going to have to take these battery holders off. And it's, of course, rather dangerously close to the RAM slots, which is never good. So I would be willing to wager that the startup circuit is stuffed on this, straight off the bat. There is kind of a way I can bypass the startup circuit. Look at that. Look at that. Let's see if there's any copper under that. I suspect there isn't. So we're going to be definitely looking at trace repairs on this one. Oh, that one's all right. Looking good. But this one here, there's so much green around there, I feel fairly certain that's going to be wrecked. So we're going to have to take off these battery holders, which is a bit of a pain. So I better switch on the machine, because we're going to need that. Anyone here who is missing the reference for the machine is because when you press it, when it activates, it makes a sort of a sound, or a moo. A few people have said it should just be called a cow machine, but we've been calling it the machine now for long enough. So I've got to replace the fan in this thing. Okay. Things that make you go, All right, there we go. It's starting to not be so noisy anymore. Okay, so first things first, do I risk actually trying to fire it up to see whether it is just the startup circuit or whether the problems are further on? Generally, I don't recommend going that way. I generally recommend that if you've got capacitor leakage, you should clean those caps first to prevent any damage from it. And I probably should then practice what I preach. But part of me is kind of interested to know, because although there's leakage here, a lot of the board is in quite good condition. And the fact that I just see that busted trace there makes me think, be interesting to see whether it just starts up bypassing the startup circuit. Now, in order to do that, I've got to find out whether J19, that's got to be the speaker, doesn't it? Because if I want to test it, I've got to plug in a speaker. Here's a speaker. Does anyone else in the stream here have a 2FX? I'd be very interested to know. Oopsie. Speaker. I'd also be very interested to know what the impedance is of the speaker that they use on the 2FX, or a 2 or 2X. I imagine they're all probably the same. So, why does it have two battery holders? It has two battery holders because one battery, if you'd been listening, Jay, one battery is for the PRAM. The other battery is part of the startup circuit. And if that second battery is not in, it won't start up. So it is actually 100% necessary to have a battery in there to start it up. Fix it first. Dave's voting for me to fix it first. No, actually, the closest I have is a Quadra 700 just recently. Yeah. A Quadra 700 are obviously fairly closely based to the 2CI. So if we're looking at 2CI, 2CX 700, they'd be sharing a fair bit of stuff there, but I'm not sure about the speakers. They're a completely different speaker in the 2CX. They're an oval-shaped one, whereas the ones in these are roundy. The 2VX, it's a huge turd. Yeah, I understand that. It's still collectible though. Okay. All right. So I've got Seems A4, the rest of those on trend. Because I haven't done an Amiga. I've done Amiga 1200 and I've done Amiga 600. No one sent me a 4000 yet. So, wow, there are holes in the board. There are plastic supports that are in the case that go through here. So when this is actually, there's little plastic pole thingies that stick up through the board and hold the rack on the top, which holds the floppy drives and the hard drives. So these are where those little supports go through, big plastic supports go through to hold that cage on the top. So when you're putting the board in, you basically just slot this over those supports and it just sort of settles in nicely. So there, that is why, and then it's just got a little notch here that helps guide it as well. So okay, right. So I think most people want me to fix it first rather than just test it straight off the bat. So way sensible viewers I've got here. I guess it's time for me to go in and start recapping. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get these battery holders off because I'm very curious to see what it looks like underneath that. So the speaker that I'm going to test this out with is a 16 ohm 0.25 watt. This is the same sort you'd find in an LC. Okay, yeah, all right, look at all these people. Look at all these people. I can't believe how sensible everyone is. It's fantastic. It's great to see. All right, machine. He's heated up, nice and hot. And I've got tweezers everywhere here. There we go. So let's see if we can get these. I'm going to take both battery holders off because I want to have a good old look. And I may even end up having to take a RAM holder off. It's the just a little bit of trivia here. It is the winter solstice today here in Australia. It will be, I assume, the summer solstice tomorrow for you guys over there. One of the things I've always loved about the winter solstice is the knowledge that the day after, from tomorrow onwards, the days start getting longer again. Yay! I've lost my goggles. Here we are. Goggles. These are, just in case anyone's curious, so these are little clip-on ones that I bought from Daiso. I don't know if you guys have Daiso in the States, but and they clip on and then flip up, and they're 3 times magnification, or 3.5, something like that. So they really help me kind of zoom in here. Okay, I can tell. Oh, I'm going to put some new solder on these pins before I hit it with the machine. I can see green. I can see green. It's not easy being green. Okay. Charlie, hello. Thank you for joining. Okay. All right. It's enough Amiga talk. Enough of me Amiga talk for now. I'll chase away my Mac fans. Excuse me. Right. Let's get this all positioned for maximum ease. Oh, there's the battery holders. So those who might have just jumped on and joined, I am taking off the battery holders of this Mac, this Mac IIfx, because I can see some trace damage and I can't access it very well with the battery holders in place. So I am now going to add some solder to these pins, which will aid in the removal of the solder, which I often comment on the fact that seems extremely counterintuitive, but it is just how it works. If you put some nice fresh solder, get that all mixed in with the old solder, if you can, it will make oh, that stinks. That's a fishy old smell. The fishy old smell. Fishy. Oh, look at that. Look at that trace rot. There. Through to the other side of the board. Yay. Okay, there's that. Oh, and some along here as well. It's amazing how you pick up I pick up the good one and just realize it's the bad one. Well, actually, no, the other one is definitely worse. Okay, so I've got to find the other pin. Is that it there? That looks like it. It's interesting. I mean, most of the time with these boards, when you've got damage on the top side of the board, not always, but usually the bottom side is pretty darn clean. But this one here has definitely got its fair share of ugliness underneath. Come on. Let's I don't have the fan on, do I? Fan on. Okay. Bye, Dana. Okay. Backboards that could accept the 68060 processor, not to my knowledge. Okay. The Apple Power Macintosh upgrade card for PDS card, PVC. Yep. Just catching up on the chat. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. All interesting stuff in there. So let's now try the machine and see if we can get these battery holders off. No such thing as a straight recapping for me these days. But I guess it's probably going to happen. I do obviously have a lot of. Sorry, I've just got something gross on my hand here. Don't know what it is, but I'm going to wipe it off. You know, I do have a lot of people who watch my stream and you know, sort of want to learn stuff, and people go in and they recap things themselves, or they take on the easy ones themselves, and then they just send me the ones they can't do themselves. So, yay! Having said that, I do get easy ones from time to time. So I've just got to look at these pins under the microscope because they are designed to kind of hold in, and I just want to come on. They've got like a little barb on the end, and I just need to bend that barb without damaging anything. I did it with these the other day, and I did it with such carefree abandon and it just worked beautifully. Okay, I think I can give these a good old yank in a minute. Yeah, looking good. I don't know if these battery holders end up getting damaged. It's no great loss. I can stick new ones on there, but I would prefer to try and retain these ones if at all possible. I might apply a little bit of heat to help push these pins out one at a time. Come on. Getting battery holders out really sucks. I did it yesterday on, what was it? It was a busted SE, maybe? Yeah, it was an SE. And my goodness, it was easy. Come on. Got one side out of this one. Sorry about this, folks. It was not my intention to be in this predicament where I'm just sort of faffing around with battery holders. Got one. There's a whole battery holder off. Yay! Come on. You know you want to come off. Hey, there we go. Okay, let's hope we haven't done too much damage there, or more importantly, you know, something that I might potentially have to fix. Right, let's have a look under these battery holders and just see what it looks like. Okay. Yes, yes, it really does. It is. I mean, look, I really do like to encourage people to tackle their own repairs, but yeah, it does mean that you end up just seeing the bad leftovers. So let's start scraping away and see what we have here. Well, we scraped away there and we ended up with some pretty copper. That's nice. Let's see about here. Copper there as well. There's certainly got corrosion, but there's still copper there. I do think I'm going to have to take one of these RAM slots off, so the old machine could be getting a workout today. Because, I mean, you can see this leaching in underneath there, and there's a trace, excuse me, that goes right along there under there. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's damaged. Continue scraping and scraping. Is this... Wow, look at that. We have copper the whole way. Not a single break in that. That's quite extraordinary. Wow. I'm impressed. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. We ready to take off the RAM slot? That's going to be fun. Let's try and do it as fast as I can, but I'm going to have to do it. One of the good things about this is these are individual RAM slots. Normally they're in banks of 2, so I can just take one row off, you know, here, which is kind of cool. Okay, John Doe, welcome. Fair income. Fair income, mate. Okay. I'm going to have to do a little swap here because I'm going to need the smaller nozzle on my machine. And of course this is hot. So I have to be very careful when I'm doing this. Be careful not to hurt myself. I don't recommend doing this. But, you know. If anyone has a machine similar to this, even if it's a soldering iron that has one of these setups where you screw on a little cap like that, where the tip sits on the end and then you screw on the little sort of shield on the outside. Anyone with one of those? Really, really important to unscrew and screw these on a fairly regular basis. If you just let these things sit, they will get to a point where trying to remove that will end up damaging the thing. So let's just let this get hot. I might just give it a quick little nozzly cleany bit. Here we are. These machines come with little sort of things for cleaning through here. Make sure that you don't get any little bits of solder in there. Very handy. Right. Okay. Great. Yay. Should I put solder on it first? I might put new solder on it first. It will just make the process easier. I'm going to be moving this microscope around a lot today. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so if someone comes up to you and says something and you think, you know, is that genuine? You can go like, fair income? Yeah, you fair income, mate? I'm not on camera, am I? Once again, just adding some nice fresh solder to this old solder will just make the removal of all the solder a lot easier. It is slow, it is tedious, it is boring, it is necessary. Woke up this morning, it was absolutely pissing with rain. Well, it's now actually not too bad a day. I was actually supposed to be out with my car club today, but the inclement weather forced us to cancel the event. which happens quite a lot with car clubs because we don't like taking our fancy cars out in the wet. All right, come on. That's half. Now we just do the other half. Worth mentioning that if I was having to take this off with solder wick or a manual solder sucker, it would be an absolute nightmare. The process of removing a a RAM slot like this is something that I have done. I did once before when I had a sorry, I've done it many times since I've had the motorized solder sucker, but I did it once with the sort of manual process, and I did it, but it was a nightmare. And I wouldn't recommend it as an experience for anyone. But one of the things I have found on three or four of the battery damaged computers that I've worked on is finding damage traces underneath RAM slots. The reason for that is that if you get a little bit of electrolyte, underneath it, it just sort of helps that little enclosed area, helps the thing corrode beautifully without you even seeing it. Mopar or no car. Yes, it is a Mopar, and it's nothing particularly exciting. It's a fairly what is known in Australia as a Dodge Phoenix, and it's a Dodge Phoenix 400. But it is basically a 1970 Plymouth Fury, but the brand Plymouth was not really known out here in Australia. I mean, Plymouth was very much a US brand. Out here we knew of Dodge and we knew of Chrysler, but we didn't necessarily know of, Plymouth just wasn't a familiar brand out here. So when they actually sold it out here as a Dodge Phoenix rather than a Plymouth Fury, and believe it or not, it was actually assembled out here at the Chrysler plant down in South Australia, along with the Chrysler Valiant range of vehicles. And so it's an Australian vehicle with a right-hand drive. But here we go. That one was no good. Sorry about the repetition, guys. I'll take a break. They seem to be coming off quite well. One of the tips with using these is to make sure that you don't start sucking too early. Make sure that solder is nice and molten before start sucking. Oh, that's fun, isn't it? Just seeing if I can try and get this a little bit closer in there. Ute here going dark. smoking. Sorry, just catching up on here. Oh, here we go. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say VF Valiant Pacer. For me, yes, no. There are lots and lots of vals in the club. One of my closest mates, he's got a VG Regal hardtop. He's actually got a Pacer as well, tucked away somewhere. But yeah, Pacers are getting ridiculously expensive out here now. So the interesting thing is that there was a Chrysler vehicle in the US called a Valiant, but in Australia there was an entire range of vehicles called a Valiant. So yeah. I'm getting the fishy smell up this end. We're nearly there, folks. By gum, this is interesting. Any recommendations for Hako FX 888 tips? Now, if I remember rightly, I think the 888 still uses the T12 tips. Can you confirm that for me, Nate? Which are these ones here that use they're actually the whole tip is the heating element rather than just having a tip on the end of the iron. The whole tip itself is the heating element. And I'm pretty sure the 888 is kind of like a manual version of the 951. I think it just has a dial at the front or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, I think this one is going to be totally repairable. I'm feeling pretty confident about it. It's usually the main problem with these is what you can't see, not what you can see. So you end up with if there's a rotten veer somewhere. They'll look pretty darn good. I may just be lucky and get this out first go. We'll see. Punge. Yes, that's the gaseous form of sponge. Just checking to make sure I undid the right one. I can feel it moving. Yeah, got a good solid wiggle on that, but something's hanging on. So let's have a look under the microscope and see which one is hanging on. A Centura, really? Goodness, that's an interesting one. Look, it's a nice little car. I think they're a little four-banger in those, aren't they? From memory. If you have a look at the really old videos on my channel, you'll actually find there's one. Still hanging on with that. You'll find a Centura doing a burnout, pretty wild burnout at one of the car events I was involved with in the past. There we go. That's enough. That's enough car talk, isn't it? 245 Hemi. Yeah. Right. Let's have a look. Gonna keep looking and looking. When I look through the hole, if I can see the actual plastic of the focus. If I can see the plastic of the RAM holder, then I know I've got all the solder out. And it looks like all of them are like that. So if it is still hanging on, it's just hanging on by the side, that sort of thing. So I think this should come off fairly easily now. Yeah, look at that. It's got a good old wiggle. It wants to come out. Come on, why are you being so stubborn? Oh, there we go. Right, and I don't think... Oh, I broke a little bit of plastic here, but that's all right. You won't see that. Out. Out. We all know that plastic gets brittle on these things as they get old. Okay, so there we go. There's a RAM slot. Ta-da! Now, let's have a look-see at what we've got here. Yes, Trina, I do understand. There is just the. I mean, look, I talk about these cars, but at the end of the day, the main car I drive around in is just a really, really dull, reliable Toyota. Because in many ways, I am the same. I like a vehicle that just gets me from A to B. But when I go out for a bit of bit of fun on the weekend, I might take the Mopar out. Okay, well, as it turns out, I really did not need to remove that RAM slot at all, but there was no way of knowing that until I removed it. There's some douche bipping his horn out there. Yes, some of them do take electricity now. Okay, so just going to get some flux on this exposed trace, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit, get some solder on it, kind of tin it on the outside, help protect it, and if we've lost any of the copper during that scraping away process, it'll just help give it a little bit more conductivity. So the way I'm going to do that is say with a little bit of flux, and then I'll get myself some solder wick. I'll get some solder on the end of my iron, and then I will do this. I will get the wick down there, I will melt some solder onto the wick, and then I'll just gently rub, passing some of that solder onto the copper. Cleaning and tinning. Tinning and cleaning. There we go. Looking nice. Jesus, my what's this thing? My picture is getting a little bit smeary. I'm gonna never hear the end of it from Jay. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. I'm happy. So I can just stick that RAM slot straight back on now. Oh, wasn't that fun? Right. Okay. And yes. Just checking again. I want to be sure. Right. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. I'll try and solder this on as quickly as I can. Because, you've been very patient with me removing it. Now I just have to stick it straight back on again. Or should I leave it off until I get the battery holder on? Oh, the FX888 uses the short tips. I'm sorry, I really don't know. I do use, what I tend to use is a beveled tip, like the one that's on here. Let me see if I can clean it up a little bit and show it to you. The one I use is actually a T12BC2. And I really like these because they are beveled. So we've got a nice pointy bit. There. There we go. Come on. There we go. We've got a sort of a bit of a pointy bit there, but then we've got this nice big flat surface area here for soldering. I like the flat. I like the bevel. So I always generally recommend a bevel tip, but that's my preference. It doesn't necessarily have to be everyone else's. It's what I like to work with. Stuff it. I'm going to stick the, I'll stick the ram stem back on. It's got to be done. All right. Now, this is going to fall out because the little plastic things that would normally hold it in got snapped off, unfortunately. But what I can do here is I can kind of tack it in with a couple of pins first. And then that'll hold it in place. Tack. Gonna need a bit of Fluxaroonie for that. Oh, you are being such a pest. You thing. Not held in at all. I need more solder on the end of my iron. I really would like a third hand round about now. Okay, that's one. And that's two. That should be enough to tack on for us now to do the rest. Jesse, did I say hello to you? I can't remember. If not, hello. Yes, the board is quite well labelled, but having said that, most of these old ones were very well labelled. The earlier boards, you certainly won't get that looking at a modern Mac board. There's very little labelling. On the very recent boards, there's essentially no labelling whatsoever. Let's just get some solder under there. I'll just check and make sure that that's held in nice. Yeah. I'll do one here. Let's say that one. And good. I'm just pushing it with the other side, from the other side, just to make sure it's sitting nice and flush. There we go. All right, so I'm confident now I've got enough kind of temporary tack pins in there that I can start soldering the rest. So let's just work our way across. This just generally doesn't take very long. Pretty easy process. But this one, got a match fella. When it comes to soldering iron tips, Nate, I think in many ways you kind of have to find the ones you like yourself. One recommendation that I would give is don't go with conical tips. The one just go to a fine point at the end, because they're often quite difficult to get heat where you want them. When you're soldering, the three things you want to get what you are trying to solder needs to be clean, needs to be the right temperature, needs to be brought up to temperature, and of course it helps to use flux as well. And if you are using a conical tip, it can often be hard to get everything hot. See, when you see what I'm soldering here, I've got the flat edge of the bevel that I'm putting on the pin. That's getting the pin hot. And then this other part of the bevel I'm pushing down onto the via, or to the hole there. And that allows me to get both the pin and the hole hot. I'm not just getting one hot, I'm getting both of them hot. And that means that the solder is just going to stick to them. So it really comes down to using sort of a tip that is going to get the heat where you need it. Focus. As efficiently as possible. I see lots of people soldering with lots of different types of tip. I know which ones I like to use, but I can offer them as a recommendation, but it may not necessarily be the one that you want to use. God, I keep getting hooked up in this stupid metal shield. I hate shields. I appreciate the need for them, but I hate shields on computers. They just get in the way when you're working on them. Data does stuff. Hello. Don't you dare pass out on the sofa. I am going to be way, way too interesting for that to happen. I don't want to hear any excuses about baling hay. I understand you've been busy today, but when you've got edge of your seat type entertainment like this coming at you, how can you even think about falling asleep? Quick question for you, Dana. Do you have a Macintosh IIfx? We nearly finished with the little process here that didn't need to be done, but we did it just to be super cautious. So basically we had some corrosion right next to this RAM slot. So I ended up taking the RAM slot off to see if there's any corrosion under it. And as it turns out, there was none. So we didn't really need to remove it, but I don't regret doing it. No regrets. You have two of them. Awesome. Are they accessible for you at the moment? It's not super important if they're not, but if they are something that you can put your hands on reasonably easy, I'd be very interested to know what the impedance is of the speaker in them. So that being this little measurement on the back here. This one's 16 ohms, 0.25 watts. I'd just be very curious to know what the impedance of a 2FX speaker is if you have one at your disposal. All right, so, well, we've established that we had some corrosion there, but it didn't actually appear to have eaten through the trace. We did have some corrosion here on the other side we've got to clean up, so let's have a look at that now, and we'll see whether that's going to need to be repaired as well. So you can see it here. You can see that really bad blackening. No, you can't because I'm not on the microscope. Now you can. So let's just go and do more scrapies. I don't want to see anything brown. I want to see shiny copper. Scraping with the scalpels. Just a reminder to everyone that if you're ever curious about the equipment that I use, there are links to everything in the description. Virtually everything. And if they're not there, please do ask. Hey, you're actually welcome to ask about the equipment, even though the links are in there. If you want to know why I use particular types of equipment over other types of equipment, I can tell you why. Some of them might be just because of cost. Some of them might be because of, well, fairly, sort of simple things. I mean, I can tell you, for example, with the soldering iron that I use, which is a Hakko FX951, I think the interface is a piece of dog poo. But there are so many other things that I like about this soldering iron that I do like it. I recommend it. With that huge caveat there. It's a bit of a dodgy bit of soldering on that little ceramic capacitor there, isn't it? Dodgy as bro. Okay. It's quite thin there. I might end up adding a little bit of wire to that. I mean, I'm sure it's got continuity, conductivity, all that sort of stuff, but yeah, it's just a little bit thinned out. So let's just have a look around here for any other traces that might look a bit manky. I'm looking for, yeah, that one looks a little bit manky. So these components get put in place by a machine and then they get glued down and then they go through a solder bath sort of thing to make the solder then stick to all the metal components. And so that red stuff there is component adhesive. It's it just gets squirted out by a machine. Component then gets stuck on, held in place by the component adhesive, and then it goes through the solder bath. And as you can see, this one was not perfectly aligned. One of the traces leading away from the RAM slot look iffy. Okay. Your 2X is marked 32 ohm, 0.25 watt. Ay caramba. So that's completely different to all the other ones. So I've got a 16 here. We've got a 63 over here. And then we're now going 30, what is it? 32 ohm. Okay, well 16 will do for testing. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. Okay, well that's good. Clean satisfied. That's good to know. Some pitting on the trace, but otherwise nice looking copper. Yeah. Okay. So one of the traces leading away from the RAM slot looked iffy. Let's check if we can find that one. Leading away, leading away, leading away, leading away. Leading away, leading away, leading away. This one? Is that it? Clean that up there. I might need to just look at this with my goggles because I'll be... Oh, look at this one. Looks awful. It looks awful. So the one I'm referring to is this guy here. Wow. This one's bad the whole way. Now, I don't have any doubt that this one would still be conducting electricity, but what this is about trying to prevent ongoing corrosion. A little bit like hitting it with a bit of rust guard or something like that. And I am well aware of the fact that this is kind of dull viewing, seeing this sort of housekeeping type maintenance. But, oh, look at this one. This one definitely needs some attention. We're getting very close to actually breaking through the copper there. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. They're everywhere. Right out. How's my blade looking? MacBoy 91 SI. Hello. Thank you for joining. MacBoy 91. I don't remember seeing your username before. Thank you for joining. Where are you joining from? Okay. Geez, I'll tell you, it wouldn't have taken much longer with this corrosion to, I think, completely and totally eat through this copper. So, good to catch it. May still need to run some wire here because I'm scraping out a fair bit of rust in there. Okay, let's just see. I'm going to clean this up. Sorry about the lack of focus. It's really hard to stay in focus with this board. It's stupid, huge board. All right. Let's get the old solder wick here. In the, oh, Kentucky, okay. Yeah, look, don't worry too much about it, Dana. I mean, you know, I'm curious, but it's not a kind of deal breaker or anything like that. So if it's too hard, if it's nice and easy for you, then that's awesome. But if it starts getting kind of complicated and difficult and struggle and all that sort of stuff, then please don't worry. You deserve a break. Been out working on the farm. Time to put your feet up. When I rub the solder over this and tin it, it helps to highlight all those little dark areas that require additional attention. And I really do think this one here will benefit from a bit of wire. Oh, God, that's out of focus, isn't it? Sorry. My apologeticals. Okay. Just joining late after recapping an LC2. Aren't LC2s fun to recap? Whatever it is it 13 of them? I can't remember. There's a lot of caps in there. Okay, a little bit more here. Let's get a little bit more solder. Solder. A bit more solder. Now I'm going to get the old multimeter on this trace that I've just been messing with here and see that it is actually conductive. So got my multimeter, set it on beepity beep mode. Anyone who is interested, I use a Fluke 115 multimeter. There are good cheap multimeters out there. I ended up buying the Fluke because I had problems with a lot of my cheaper multimeters, different problems in each of them, and I was just kind of a little bit tired of just going from one cheap one to another with problems, so I decided to spend a bit more and get a better one, and I do not regret it. I've been very happy with it. Okay, let's go from here to here. And we got beepity beeps. Come on. It's a bit grubby. Let's, Come on. I heard you beep before. Don't mess with me. Yeah. So, I'm fairly confident with that now. I'm just going to clean it up a smidge. I'm going to use some flux cleaner here and just sprinkle that on there, and then I'll smash it with a toothbrush. And then I will take my goggles off and read some of the chat that I might have been missing while I've been doing this. We can actually start recapping this bloody thing now. Just having a look now, see if I can see any more yucky looking traces. Ooh, that looks coming down from the power button. So look at that. Yeah, a little bit nasty, but it's okay. Okay. very therapeutic watching. I'm pleased to hear that. Okay, so I've got a little bit of catch up here. Different screw. I'm going to open up my compact mix up. Yes. Get a T15 for sure. This is the one I use. Great big long one. That's what she said. An early SE30 board with the removable CPU and my 2SI board, hence the 91 in SI in my name. I figured that was the reason for your name. You are amongst friends here, Mac Boy. Had major leakage, both had Maxwell batteries in them, yeah. It's the joy, isn't it? I mean, this one here has definitely had some battery leakage. 2 screwdrivers set that, have those plastic pieces of the bits attached to push. Yeah, look, you can get some smaller drivers that you will be able to work your way into there, but I highly recommend if you're opening a lot of compact Macs, get one with a long handle. It just makes life a lot easier. Don't tell people recapping's not as hard as you think. Stop it. You've got to tell people it's really, really difficult and you need specialists to do it. Come on. 32 ohm 0.25 watt. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Dana. I really do appreciate that. Now go crash on the couch now. Okay, just catching up. There's been a fair bit of chat here. I'm just going to quickly look at the viewer count because I can't see that in this view that I'm in at the moment. 25 viewers at the moment. Thank you to everyone. We are going to about to start the actual recapping stage in a moment. And oh geez, I accidentally just zoomed right back. Sorry. Okay. All right. Okay. So we are going to. Yeah, the Mac 2 has 2 soldered batteries. One is So same with this one, except that the batteries aren't soldered on. They are actually battery holders, but that is correct. There are 2 batteries, one for the startup circuit and one for the PRAM. Okay, just going to clean up these. I mean, it's quite good with this that, as we've seen, lots of nasty looking traces here, but they all still seem to have quite good copper underneath them. So, you know, all nice and salvageable. It's great. As yet, I'm not saying we won't, but as yet we haven't found a single broken trace. They've all just been spongy. Oopsie. What have I done? There we go. 25 viewers and only 19 likes. Sorry, I'm just reading. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the reading. I've got to keep working now, haven't I? I've got to work. Right. Okay, so that's enough for that at the moment. I'm going to probably come back and do a little bit more trace cleaning later on, but God, that scared me for a minute there. I thought, oh, hang on. We are. That's a component. That has had a component on it. Because you can see the adhesive pushed down. Ooh. That's interesting. That could be why it doesn't work. I've got another one of these boards. I'm going to have a look and just see what it is. But the first thing we're going to do is clean up these pads. So let's just do that now. Yeah. Yeah, Jay, you are exactly right. The pads do look oddly flat. Normally, when you lose a component, you end up with little bits of solder sticking out there. These ones look completely flat, but there's no doubt about the fact that that adhesive has had something on it. It's been pushed down. Now, that's why I'm going to go check the other one, because if the other one has the same sort of thing, maybe a component got put there incorrectly. and they took it off before they went through the solder bath, which would kind of fit. But I just want to be sure. I do just want to be sure, because, you know, everything's good. Mr. Fahrenheit, thank you very much. I do appreciate that very much. Thanks for your work helping the Mac community. Well, you are most welcome. I do enjoy sharing the knowledge, the acquired knowledge, and oh, what's that? Flux cleaner. And I am glad that people enjoy watching it. It's very good to know. So I won't do it right now, but I am going to pop up and have a look at the other 2FX board that I have. I have one up in the house, and I'm just going to check and see whether it also has a missing component there at C144. Now, I really think it's time to start recapping. What do you think? So we've got to get 14 surface mount electrolytic capacitors off, and then we've got to remove these axial caps as well. So that's going to be sort of fun part. As usual, when I'm doing my removals of surface mount electrolytic capacitors, I use these little cutter blades as heat shields, and then I get these little springs and I hook them over there so that they stay upright on the board. These obviously started once upon a time being a nice shiny color. Now they've gone all brown and yucky. So no, it's all right, Danny. You don't need to check. I do have another 2FX board I can check this on. So unlike the speaker, I don't have a speaker, but I do actually have another 2FX board. If you do have a 2FX board there, it saved me going up to the house, I suppose. Have a look on the back of the board. In the region opposite end of the new bus, so this end down here, there is C144 and C145. We're just interested to know whether you actually have a component for C144 or whether that is empty. But don't only if, well, you've got to take the board out for that. I'm not expecting you to do that. That's awful. I wouldn't do that. It'd be quicker for me to just walk up to the house and grab the one I have up there. So, heat shields. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Love to find a 2X board, if nothing else, for the FDHD ROMs. Yep. Again, one of my huge regrets in life, I had a Macintosh 2 that had been upgraded with the FDHD ROMs, and I had it sitting in my garage for a really long time, and then one day, ages ago, my dad sort of said to me, and we're talking decades ago, my dad said to me, you don't want to keep this, do you? What are you going to keep this for? And I looked at it and I thought, yeah, I'm never going to fire that up again. And we gave it away or whatever, took it to recycling. And I really regret that. I would really love to have that Mac 2 still. But it's just how it goes, isn't it? If everyone hung onto them, they wouldn't be as collectible, would they? Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, why on earth would you hang on to a computer of that age? All right, so the reason why I use these heat shields is because there are lots of plastic things all over these boards. Now, because I've never done this board before, we're going to be discovering as we go. For instance, I know that certain boards are a lot harder than others based on the position of plastic. If you're looking at, say, a Macintosh, I think it's the Classic or an SE, you've got capacitors right next to the Molex power connector there. And if you don't use heat shields, you're going to end up melting that Molex. So, I use these heat shields to make sure we don't get any unnecessary meltage. So, I like to make up words, by the way. So, let's now have a look at the board, get it in focus, and use the right camera. Can anyone tell me what 000 stands for on a resistor like that? It's an easy one. Right, let's get the hot air station out and start getting rid of some of these capacitors. Oh, I found my big tweezers at last. I don't need them now. I wanted them yesterday. Hot air, this is going to smell because I can see the leaky electrolyte around. There we go. Off she comes. Pads look really good too. Yes, House of Moth bridge is correct. 0 resistance. That's so in other words, that resistor is actually just being used as a jumper. That's all it's really doing. It's just bridging between those two areas there. So even though it is a resistor, it is I could replace that resistor and use a little piece of wire instead. Okay. Oh God, I hate the sound of these. Oh, can this shield come off? Can it? Can it? I want to take this crappy thing off. Goggles. Oh, I see. No, I don't. Oh, I see. Come on. Come on. There we go. You can do it. Come on. What's holding this thing on? There we go. And goodbye. You can go back on later. I do not like you. You are not a friend of mine. Right. Let's try that again, shall we? Without the stupid heat shield. Moving these boards around is a real pain because they're huge and I don't really have enough room on my desk for them. So I'm going to be resting a little bit. Yes, there are components at C44 and 144 and 145. Interesting. Okay, well, I've got to go up and get the other board then, don't I? Jeff, hello. Welcome to the stream. Right. Manky. Okay. Oh, I forgot to change back to the microscope view. Sorry. Okay, that's 2 down. 12 to go. And while we're taking each of these caps off, we'll be looking around the area because obviously the corrosion usually follows the leaky caps around and the leaky batteries. So, you know, if I've ever got a computer that I know has, you know, problems with traces or something like that, the first place you always start looking is around all the leaky caps. Most likely for the problem to be there. These ones here aren't that bad, and, you know, you can see the smeariness. They are leaking. They're not as bad as you would see on, say, an SE30 or something, but do keep in mind that an SE30 is a couple of years older than this computer, and if this one here were to sit in this state for another couple of years, it'd get a lot worse. Get my little heat shrink shield here. I have to say, so far this has been a delight to work on. Apart from the board being huge, all of these capacitors are miles away from anything. There's nothing right hard up against plastic, so I wouldn't really consider this to be a very difficult capacitor removal. Let's just have a look at it. I see the chat tucking away. There we go. It's got to make sure it doesn't get away from me. Dumpster diving, yeah. Yes, I've never done that, but I would love to get some of those old e-waste computers. People seem to get some great deals through e-waste places. Okay. Any cancelled tips? Have e-waste skipped somewhere? If you're lucky, yeah. They do. I've seen e-waste skips come up every now and again, but trying to get stuff out of them is very difficult. They're fairly heavily guarded. My Officeworks doesn't have a recycling bin. They take stuff, but they don't have a bin. Oh, they might, but you can't see it. Does the ultrasonic cleaner also clean capacitor residue? Yes, it does, absolutely. My ultrasonic cleaner, which normally sits here, might even see it in this angle, here, normally sits here, is not here today. And the reason is because I am emptying it out, because I put something in it that was very rusty, and the water ended up covered in rust particles, and I don't want rust particles ending up on anything that I clean in the future. So I'm replacing the water in it with liquid. Okay, yes, so we continue. I might, just for a little bit of fun, remove this one without the hot air station, to show people how I do that. I would generally do that by, first of all, applying a little bit of flux. I would then add a little bit of solder to the pins here. Get some solder, nice fresh solder there. What I'm trying to do is I'm not concerned about melting the plastic, by the way. I'm trying to get to try and be like lots of new solder here, pushing all the old solder out of the way, getting rid of the crustiness, all that sort of stuff. I'm coming at this at a really bad angle, by the way. Okay, that's ideally what I'm trying to do. Get some heat in there. Then I'll get some wick and I'll try and suck away as much of that solder as I can. Like this. Now, these ones that have actually got some adhesive underneath them, they're a little bit tricky using this method here. If anyone has seen people just say cut them at the top, if you want to do that, that's fine. I would never do it. Too easy to damage things, especially with old ones that might have traces that are a little bit corroded and whatnot. It's just way too easy to accidentally damage a trace or a pad. And off she comes. And we didn't do any damage to the pads either. So there we go. But as you can see, it takes a lot longer. If you don't have a hot air station, you can do it, but it's a much slower process. And at the end of the day, hot air stations are not particularly expensive. So if there's something you want to do, hot air station, make it a priority. Now I'm starting to get a part of the board where I'm having real trouble fitting it on. Right, I got that there. Let's hit this with some heat. Each time, just putting a heat shield sort of so that I don't damage anything, melt anything that I don't want to melt. You can see a lot of residual scunge here. And the impact of that is it kind of makes these solder joints all crusty on the outside. And then you can see that when I heat it with hot air, the solder starts pushing through that crusty surface on the outside. That's why it's important to clean this stuff afterwards, make sure we get rid of all those little solder balls. Dana, thank you very much. 256 kind of badly rhymes with 2FX. Close enough. Always recommend using some pliers to twist them off the board. Yeah, people do jump onto YouTube and things like that and say this is how to do it. And you know what? If it's working for them, that's fine. If it's their boards, that's fine. I'm working on customers' boards. These are for these people. These are collectible items. They're valuable items. I am not going to risk doing unnecessary damage by twisting capacitors off. Even if it works 20 times in a row, that 21st time might end up damaging the computer. So Oh man, this board, stop being so big. Let's check. I have removed them that way. Yes, I mean, as I said, you know, you can remove them that way, and it might work for you time and time again. But as I said, I'm certainly not going to be doing it when I'm recapping people's prized possessions. Incidentally, during my stream yesterday, I was talking to folks about the looking like I was going to be getting a Quadra 950. Well, that looks like it is a reality. So within the not too distant future, I will have my own Quadra 950. And I'm quite looking forward to that because they're a little bit rare. I can tell you who will not be looking forward to it, and that is my wife, because I will have another great big computer that I have to put somewhere. Okay. Because one of the little stories that I always tell about the whole process of either cutting the top or twisting off the capacitors is that I do get boards sent to me where people have done that and they've torn a pad off. So, you know, I actually get to see firsthand the fact that it doesn't always work. Right. Just catching up with the chat here. Sorry, guys. I'm just being can't read and talk. 950 is so amazing. Yes, indeed, I do like it. Wasn't the Quadra 950 the last of the classic 68K Max? No. Maybe. Oh man, I can't remember now. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. There'll be people in the chat here that will know for sure, but it could be. Ask me for recommendations on small plane hangers. Yeah, I don't want to put it in a plane hanger. I want it here. And I've got a storage unit. I don't want to put things in a storage unit. I want them here. Got a little bit of mank on the trace here. We're going to have a look at that. There we go. So I'll just move the camera up so you can see what I was referring to with the trace just here. A little bit of pitting. Copper's good though. That seems to be the general trend with this board. Copper being good. I'm not even going to use a heat shield for this one. No plastic anywhere. Quadra Performance 630 DOS compatible. I would love to get one with a DOS compatible. I've got a 630, but it doesn't have the DOS compatible card in it. They're the things, those DOS compatible cards or the 2E cards, they're the things that are all so valuable these days. I'm being my desoldering station now. Right, this one's right next to the CPU, so we might give a little bit of shielding there because that is a plastic socket. And of course we've got a whole bunch of axial caps to take off on this one as well, but we've got nice quick ways of getting those out. Especially seeing as I have an machine. And I think this is the last one. Oh no, two more. God, there are a lot on this. No pups. No pups. Oh, that fell off. My i630 has the AV tuner stuff in it. Yeah, I've got AV, but I don't think it's got AV in out, but I don't think it has a tuner built in. Not that the tuner is much use these days. Digital TV and whatnot. Actually, it was one of the last IIfx. The i50 was around for several years before. Yeah, okay. I have a card. This is keeping me warm. Mank, short for manky. Yucky or gross. That is correct. Sorry, it looks like I've got a bit behind me. Oh wow, I have got way behind. Look at all this. This is lovely and warm. Desoldering my head. Okay. Yeah, so rough cooked everything. Yeah, definitely hot air stations are more purpose made. All right. All right. Okay. I think I'm all caught up on the chat there. If anyone has any questions, or they've asked any questions and I haven't answered them, just ask again, or do the little @Brankus Creations thingy to highlight the comment if it is something you want specifically to ask me. Always like to answer questions if I can. Oh, look at the guns around here. Well, this is scunge actually, because this is a bit moist. That was the second last. Now here is the last. I might just put a heat shield here. I'm a fair way away, but I still don't want to melt this connector. Oh, electrolyte sticks. So, interesting thing, I don't know if anyone else has kind of noticed this, but some of these caps have actually got these sort of, I guess, like tantalum mounting pads next to the electrolytic ones. So, perhaps there was at some stage an idea to use tantalum caps here instead of surface mount electrolytic. Okay, so that is a grand total of 14 electrolytic capacitors have been removed. Now we have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the axial capacitors. Let's get a side view here. Now the way I remove these when I take them off is I've usually used solder wick. I'll show you two methods of how I remove them. We'll start off with this guy here, which is a 1000 microfarad 10 volt. First thing I do is I go snip, snip, and I get rid of that. I take that away because it's a lot easier to work with these as two separate pins rather than with a component with two pins. So which pad will you use if both are available? That's a very good question. I suspect I may end up using the original electrolytic pads only because with maybe one exception. It's a really good question, Jay. There are a couple where there's some trace damage around the original pads. I might use the free pads for those because I just think that will be a much safer way to mount the capacitor. It's part of me wants to use the original ones just from a preservation point of view, but from a practicality point of view, using the other ones is probably way more sensible. Yeah, I'll make that decision at some stage between now and then. Okay, punge. So yeah, just a reminder for everyone, the three terms we use are scunge, gunge, and punge. Gunge is a dry corrosion, a dry build-up of grubby stuff. Scunge is when it's more moist, a wet build-up. And punge is what happens to it when it takes a gaseous form. Okay, so was the 2FX a 40 megahertz 68030? It was. It still is. Okay, all right. So I was demonstrating two ways of removing that cap. Now I have taken the cap away. Now I just have a pin sticking out. If we jump across to the microscope view, it's a little bit out of view, out of focus here, but you can see there's the top of the pin from where I cut it, and there it is going down onto the board. Now the way I remove these pins, if I'm doing it the old-fashioned way, I might get a little bit of fluxaroonie onto there, just to help with that dry old solder. I grab my soldering iron, and I go and put some solder onto here, some nice fresh solder. Get it onto my soldering iron and onto that pin. Then I grab a pair of tweezers and I grab that pin while heating and lift it out. And that's the pin out of the way. Then when it comes to removing the solder from the hole, I use a bit of wick like this. It's often hard to get the solder out through the whole hole. But there we go, it just got it out then. You can just see when that when the wick takes on that instant shine, you can just, that's when it's just taken on a whole bunch of solder. So switching the capacitor for tantalums, but being that if you reverse them, they're mini thermo explosions, what happens at the end of their life? Do they explode then too? Yeah, look, they may well explode, but the thing is that tantalums are incredibly reliable when used within their spec. And you do also have to keep in mind that Apple used tantalums. The fact that they use electrolytes is probably a cost-cutting measure because tantalum is a very expensive mineral. You look at something like the Quadra 950, which I mentioned before, or the Quadra 700. I mean, the primary difference between, say, a Quadra 700 and a lot of the Macs were around at the time is they use tantalums instead of electrolytics. They don't have capacitor issues. Those things are still running strong today unless they've got battery corrosion all over them like mine does. So, we're not doing anything here when we replace the electrolytics with tantalums. It's not like we're doing something which is like, some sort of wild, crazy, unusual sort of thing going on here. The Apple themselves were using tantalums on some of their computers. So, and yes, but as I say, tantalums are very, very reliable capacitors when used within their spec. Let's now look at another method of removing the... what was I looking at then? Oh, well, I was looking at the... there we go, there's my wick, solder wick container. So, this is another way that I can get the one of those pins out. I've got last pin here. I can grab... once again, I'll put a little bit of extra new solder on here. Wherever it is, there it is. Ah, the pin's bent. That stupid pin's bent. I understand why people bend pins when they put... Oh, the machine's gone to sleep. Okay. Well, I've scrolled right back by accident. Okay. Tantalum smoke is your superpowers. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Tantalum, yeah. Vibranium. Yeah, the other thing to also remember about a reefer cap is designed to self-heal. So it's specifically in the design with those things, that they were designed that they didn't just blow and you had to replace them. They would blow in a way where they would actually still be useful. And it's just something to do with the way those were made, which means that when they get old, they get exciting. I had an experience with a reefer just recently. I wonder if I came at it from the top side. I'm just going to try that. Can you see? Yes. Okay. Did that work? It bloody did. How good's that? So that's my new trick, coming up from the top. All right, so let's do that now with the rest of the caps. With the rest of these axial caps. Incidentally, this one here that I'm removing at the moment is a 10 microfarad 16 volt. It's quite a common a capacitor on Macs, but of course usually they're surface mount. On this older one, they are still using axials, but in the later ones, you will find 10 microfarad 16 volt as a surface mount on quite a few of the Macs. Let's see. Oop, I sucked the pin into the thing. Oh, I'm losing all the heat on this one. When I lose all the heat, it means that it's usually attached to ground. It's got, you know, it's attached to a great big ground, copper ground plane, and it just sucks all the heat away. I get around that by adding a little bit of extra solder. Right, let's see if I can it away. Nope. Oh yeah. It worked. Hooray! 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 I replaced the reefers in the 2Es with new reefers. There are modern alternatives that save you from actually putting your reefers in, but I totally understand if people want to put reefers in to preserve the look. But yeah, you can put in, I think they're polymer equivalents. You just have to make sure that if you're replacing a safety cap, put another safety cap in. Don't just put a capacitor with the same rating. Make sure it's a safety cap. If it's a class Y, put in a class Y. If it's a class X, put in a class X, etc., etc. So very important for, you know, maintaining safety on the machine. We're just getting rid of these axial caps. I'm just going to do a big mass snip here. I have seen quite a few people when they're recapping these boards putting in through-hole caps, through-hole radial caps, the ones that have two pins coming out one side. They replace it with these and they bring the pin right around and bend it over. Yeah, it'll work. I just think it looks awful, so I try not to do that. I actually buy axial caps. They're still readily available. I don't know if they'll be readily available for the rest of time, but certainly at the moment you can still buy them without any great difficulty. Get hot, you thing. See, this one here, this has got a pad here and here and here and here and here. This has actually got pads for surface mount electrolytics, you know, so that we're putting in axials, but I could actually put in a surface mount electrolytic there if I wanted. So they were allowing a couple of options there. This machine is not working as well as I'd hoped, but we'll use it for the ones we can, and then we'll use the other method for the others. There we go. There's one. Nope. Nope. Okay, so it does appear that my original method of doing these is probably the easier way. It's certainly more consistent, so that is where I go in here. This one I managed to suck out, so let's just get this one. So the other method I use is where I get my flux. Let me just get my cheap flux, my cruddy flux. Yoing, 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 yoing. Oh, we got sad faces in here. What are the sad faces? Okay. 268 today. Got it to boot by jumping a rotten trace, but no chime. Oh, okay. No chime, yes. Well, and I can tell you where the sound chips are on them. And they're down here. You can't see that because I've got the wrong camera. I'll show you later on. And so that's where I would be looking, and looking in that region. There is there are caps there. There are 2 surface mount electrolytic caps, so I'll be looking around that area. What is going on there? I think some pigeons have figured out where I keep the chicken food. Anyone who has chickens in suburbia, as I do, will probably be well aware of the fact that when you have chickens, you end up with pigeons, whether you want them or not, because they eat all of the food that the chickens leave behind. And I'd store the chicken food in this spot, which has been secret for ages, but it looks like it's not a secret anymore. Out she comes. Oops, I missed one. This one here. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bam. Melty, melty, melty. Oh, this one's definitely sucking away a lot of the heat. Stop going inwards. I want you to come outwards. Come on. The ones that are connected to a big ground plane, they're always the hardest ones, because it's just really hard to get that solder to stay hot all the way through. There we go. I think that's all of them. Now if I can see if I can get that residual solder out with the machine. I don't like my chances, but I'll try. That one worked. Nope. Nope. Let's try a great big blob, shall we? That might work. Great big blob of solder. Oh, I'm in the wrong view once again. Oh, what have I done? What have I done? Okay. If we get a big enough blob here, I might be able to get the machine to suck it up. If not, we will be reverting to wick. That worked. Three for three. Lucky. Okay, well, I am developing new processes as I go here, and that one worked out well. Let's do that, and this will be the last of all the capacitor removal, and then we just start cleaning and replacing. And I've brought everything down here, so at the end of it, we can hopefully test it. I've just still got some solder in this one. Let's see if I can get it out with some wick. See it there. So I'm going to try it from the other side, but we'll just see what happens with the wick. I think we'll get it nice and easily from the other side of it. Oh, switch him over. Where was it? It's that one. There we go. Oh, it's going to be easy. Solder's just all falling out the other side. Look at that. Let's get a bit of wick on that, and we'll be right as rain. Magnificent. Magnifique. Right, let's get this out of the way now, because we're going to just have a quick look at the board and make sure that everything is actually off, because I do that from time to time. I take all the caps off and I go, okay, that's all the caps off. And then I go, oh, no, I didn't. So looking good, looking good. The more I look at this, the more I think I should be putting the replacement caps on these other pads. They're so much tidier. All right, let's start cleaning up some of these pads, ready for putting new caps on. Because I have, is my mantra whenever I'm talking about doing recapping, it is absolutely vital that you get those new pads clean. And here's what I was talking about before with these other pads. So they're the pads I'm thinking about using. These are the original pads. But let's just see what happens, shall we? I will make a decision at some stage between now and when I put the capacitors on as to which pads I will use. So clean up a little around there as well. Right. Cleaning involves flux, it involves fresh solder, and it involves gentle rubbing. Now these are probably, by the looks of it, the worst pads on here. These ones I think have suffered from the corrosion worse than some of the others. So I need to keep rubbing these gently until I'm looking at a completely clean pad rather than part of a pad with some black scunge on it. So I'm not getting anywhere. Well, I am getting somewhere, but I'm not getting this really nasty black stuff off the side of this one. So I'm now going to bring in the big guns, and I'm going to use some solder wick, which is of course just braided copper. For anyone who might not know what wick is, it is braided copper with a bit of flux in it. And it sucks solder in, it draws solder into that braid. Okay. Should I order pizza? Yes. Is it a like a local pizza place, Dana, or is it going to be one of the big chains? It's still got that little, see that little crescent bit of black stuff there. I'm now going to have to scrape that off with my little blade. Pad cleaning, favourite bit of the video, yeah. Well, look, the one good thing, I guess, about pad cleaning, I mean, it's repetitious. One might even go as far as to say boring. But it is very rewarding because you start off with, you know, grossness and you end up with loveliness. Might hit this with a toothbrush first. This one's pretty black and yuck. I have mentioned this on the streams before. I do not use this toothbrush for cleaning my teeth. Good. Don't like the look of the end of this component here, but I don't think it's going to be necessary for me to take it off. Is that broken? One way to tell, beepity beep mode. Beep. Let's get the little probes here and we'll just test. Now, as I say, these are basically just pads for the same component, really, just two different versions. Beep, beep. So we're all good. We've got our continuity there. So essentially what I was saying before is I have the option of either putting my component onto these pads here or putting them onto these fancy pads up here. And the fancy pads, the great big ones, are really designed for taking a component like I'm going to put on here. So it probably makes sense to use them. So I think I probably will. But I will still clean up the other ones as well, because it will make the board look much nicer. Okay, right, where are we? Just Domino's, okay, yep. Ours here is one of the okay ones. The really good local place doesn't open until later. Fair enough. Yeah, the old Domino's look, you know, they're all right. I've had Domino's pizza before. I can't fault them. I guess my biggest complaint with any ordered pizza is the fact that by the time they arrive, they're never particularly hot anymore. You've got to have the oven on, heat them up, so they're all nice and piping hot. Yeah. But Trace is looking in dire need of a little solder mask. Yeah. It is indeed, and it will get it. There's actually, I'm going to have to go crazy with solder mask on this one, because there are so many exposed traces. I like pineapple on pizza. I know there are purists out there that say, oh, pineapple shouldn't be on pizza. And that's fine. Don't order it. But I tell you what, I like it. I think it goes quite well. You know, that sweet with the savoury. I think it's a great combination. Having said that, my favourite pizza that I generally order is a pepperoni pizza. I just love a pepperoni pizza. Okay. So this one here, this one's quite interesting because there are the new pads, or the unused pads, and here are the old ones. Now there's quite some distance between them, and there's no obvious link between the those pads. So I'm just going to grab my multimeter and check that they are actually joined. One here. Yes. Yes. So they are. So let's get some more flux onto this. And we'll clean the pads. If it didn't come from an animal, it doesn't belong with pizza. What about tomatoes? What's the founding thing for a pizza is tomato sauce on the base. That doesn't come from an animal. Okay. I'd love some pizza. I'm having ribs for dinner tonight. I'm quite looking forward to. It's one of the little treats that I often make, particularly on weekends. It is Sunday here at the moment. We're back to work tomorrow, so we're going to treat the Sunday blues with a bit of slow cooked ribs. Yeah, yummy. Looking forward. I like to generally brine the meat a little bit before I cook it. Just helps with the tenderness and the flavour and everything like that. My apologies to any vegetarians or vegans in the group. I make no judgment about your eating choices. Ooh. Ooh. Sauce doesn't count. It's like the dough. Yes, fair enough. Yes, the dough. This is true. The dough also does not come from an animal. Now, I would have to disagree with you in the strongest terms there. I'm afraid, Dana. I love quite a lot of vegetable matter on pizza. I think things like mushrooms are absolutely beautiful on pizza. Olives, even a bit of eggplant sometimes. I think you can make some absolutely delicious pizzas with vegetable matter. Now, having said that, I still like to have some meat component on there, but yeah, I think that, you know, sort of having some vegetable matter on there is pretty important. Good combination. And I mean, even like a margarita pizza, I mean, that's just cheese and tomato sauce. I mean, that's great. But then again, cheese does come from an animal, doesn't it? Yeah. We must kung fu fight. Hadouken. Goodness. Okay. Yay. 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 Right, these are all coming up nice and clean, so that's obviously, that was the goal. We're making sure these are looking nice and tidy. Well, it's got a clean end on it. Our return trip for pizza. It's not going to be very hot when you get home. Does your board there have any radials on it? Have you been watching? Come on. You've been nodding off at the lounge on the couch there, haven't you? On the sofa. Haven't you there, Dana? You've been drifting in and out of consciousness, I dare say. Because yes, there are. These are them. Took them off. To be precise, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them removed. It was probably the most exciting part of the stream, so I'm sorry you missed it. Right. Here's some more awkwardly positioned capacitors here. Get some more. I will be so happy when I've finished using all of this flux that I'm using at the moment, this translucent stuff. I just hate it. I mean, I didn't pay for it, which is why I am using it, but it just smells yucky. Gives me a headache. Come on, this board's so big. It's so bloody big. You can see with all of these that I am cleaning the other pads as well, because the more I do this, the more I think using those pads is the way to go. Okay. Oops. Right, where are we? Spinach. Yeah, I can't see any problem. The meal I had last night had spinach in it. It was really nice. Overlapping retro computing and classic car code. Interesting. Okay. There we go. I'm at 2 hours already. Far out. Sorry guys, and I haven't even put a single replacement cap on yet. This is a big job. I need to charge more for a 2FX in future, don't I? Now, admittedly, I have been doing a lot of chin wagging, but you know, far out. I'm going through a lot of wick today too. I'm glad I bought some more the other day. And of course, I do have to go up to the house at some stage and grab that other 2FX board and find out what the goodness gracious is missing off this board. I mean, I know it's a capacitor, but I need to know what sort. What kind? On the bright side, all of the axials have been removed. The holes are empty, so they don't need any further cleaning. Just putting those on is going to be nice and easy. Just going to get this cleaned up. I hope my caps do actually fit on those pads. They're big. Way bigger than the caps I'm going to put on. So let's just keep working. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's 7 and 8. Where? There. How do you prefer them wrapped? Anti-static bags, plenty of bubble wrap and boxing. Yeah, pretty much all of the above. Some people send them to me in anti-static, some people don't. I've never had any arrive here with static damage. But generally, if people have an anti-static bag, yeah, just put it in an anti-static bag, then wrap it in bubble wrap. If you're going to send it to me with the RAM in the RAM slots, make sure you put plenty of bubble wrap on there, because I have had one arrive where someone hadn't bubble wrapped it enough and the RAM got pushed down and snapped the little holders for the RAM there. It was a SE30 or something like that. I always, as soon as they arrive, if I see any damage that looks like it's happened in transit, I always let the owner know straight away. On the whole, people are pretty good with the packing. Sometimes people get a little bit complacent, but on the whole, they're pretty good. Yeah, and preferably boxed. I have had some people that have just bubble wrapped and put them in a padded bag. Yeah. Had a 6500 come in for recapping yesterday. Not sure if I'll get a chance to live stream that. We'll see. But I've never done a 6500 either. And of course, another color classic. Because, yeah. I could probably just dedicate an entire show to recapping color classics. In a pizza box. Oh, Jesse, sorry if I missed if you've already gone, but thank you for watching, and fare thee well. So obviously the main thing with the 6500, when I do go in and recap that, is that one is obviously a power PC computer. I don't think it needs recapping, but of course a lot of these people that have these collector's items, they're interested in future proofing. They want to try and, you know, nip it in the bud, which I can totally understand. I mean, it kind of makes sense to sort it out before. We know they are going to leak in a few years' time, so we may as well do it now while it's not leaking. No damage to the pads or anything like that. But having said that, I don't actually say to people, oh, look, you know, you got to go in and future-proof that. I mean, I don't. I generally recap when they need recapping. Or in the instance of my LC575, where I've been too lazy to recap it so far. That one needs recapping. I need to do it. I just need to find the time. I've been recapping other people's boards, so I haven't had a chance to do my own. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. There are a lot of caps on this. I guess the one advantage with these ones is that they are not really tight, close to each other, like they are, say, on an LC, LC2, LC3 board. If there's anyone out there that's thinking about recapping on recapping for themselves, my recommendation would always be don't practice on an LC. I mean, I suppose it's good practice, and there are so many of them, but they are a bit of a pain to recap because there's a little cluster of caps that are all really, really close together. So they're a bit of a bugger. I'd say they're one that you'll maybe want to recap once you're a little bit better at it. Because there are lots of LCs out there. You know, a lot of people have them, you know, have collected them because they're a lovely little case. There were lots of them sold because they were cheap. So there are plenty of them out there. It's a good, you know, if you're wanting to collect a Mac, they're probably a good starter. But yeah, as I say, they all do suffer from capacitor leakage. And we all love the little pizza box case, don't we? I mean, they're just so fun. Why have I got my wallet in my pocket? This is hurting my backside. It's not like I'm going to spend anything while I'm doing this live stream. All right, and focus again. There we go. Sorry, guys. I do apologize. I mean, you know, I know that people get on and they say, "Oh, yeah, it's therapeutic. Just going to sit and watch you do this sort of stuff." But I do, when I'm doing this stuff, worry about how boring just going in and cleaning pad after pad after pad after pad is. You know, it goes beyond me just sort of saying to people, "Oh, you know, this is how you do it." It's like, you know, once you get to the 14th one, it's like, yeah, you know how to do it now. If I was doing this as a pre-recorded video, I would probably fast forward all this bit, do it all in sort of 8 times speed or something like that. Because once you've seen one or two, you're pretty good. As I have mentioned before, when I'm doing the rubbing with the braid, I'm doing it incredibly gently, because heat, when you apply heat to these pads, it's very easy for them to lift off the board. So you just got to be super, super, super careful. Okay. These look like a no stuff. I don't think there was anything ever there. That's Y. Anything that's coated with a Y on a Mac board generally means it's an oscillator, crystal oscillator. And often in the instance of these, there are more than one type of crystal oscillator, and they do a similar thing here where you have the 2 pads. Sometimes there's a crystal oscillator that's using one set of pads, and then they've left another set of pads vacant. That probably made no sense at all. +1 for the LC love, probably combination of design and nostalgia. Yep, indeed. Untitled Chapter is my favourite combo. Yes, yes, indeed. I don't have an actually original LC. I've got an LC2, and I've got an LC475. I would really love to have an LC3. The LC2 I would like just from a collector's point of view, but they're pretty useless. I mean, you can't do much with an LC. You know, 68020 CPU. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's nonsense. You can do lots of things on them. But yes, I've also got a little 12-inch screen that I can use with any of those. I've got a 13-inch as well, but I've never actually switched it on. I got it relatively recently, and the person said it works, but I want to open it up and have a look before I start using it. So it's just been sitting there waiting for spare time, which doesn't come by very often these days. Oh boy. G5s just need to be recycled across into beer cans. I would definitely disagree with that. I like the G5. I can definitely see a lot of the things that are wrong with them and the amount of heat they produce and everything like that. But to some extent, that heat did result in Apple producing what I think at the time was an absolutely amazing looking case. I have a G5. I bought it in 2003. Does that sound right? It's a dual 2 gigahertz, and I still have it set up in my office at the moment. And I like it. Well, I mean, I paid for it, so I mean, you know, of course I'm going to like it. If I didn't, you know, I'd sort of be like, well, what'd you buy it for then? Yes, and of course that aluminium case, as big and heavy as it is, it's quite amazing. They do use a fair bit of electricity. We all know that. We know they have their shortcomings, but the thing that I think people are just too quick to forget these days is that when the G5 came out, there was nothing on the market faster than it. It was so fast. Okay. Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. The chat's going faster, too fast for me to read now. Yes, when I mention the word "no stuff," I take that from the Lewis Rossman, sort of. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I take it from the Apple schematics, where there are often times when you'll see empty pads on a board, and then you look at the schematic, and it'll actually indicate those pads on the board. It'll indicate that they are in no stuff. So, in other words, they are not there, whether it be a sort of a design change or something like that. There's no component there, the component not required. So I do often refer to the term "no stuff" when I'm talking about an empty pad. The difference being, of course, when you're dealing with a component that has been torn off, there are often signs that it's been torn off. Whereas when it is a pad that was not meant to have anything on it, a no stuff, they do look quite different. They usually have a nice little mound of solder there. Okay, we're getting close here, guys and gals. I am really getting close here, but I'm telling you, this has been. I thought, yeah, live stream a 2FX recap. Why not? That's a great idea. Don't see 2FXs very often. That'll be great. But boy, oh boy, it's turned into a hell of a commitment. Let's get some flux on there. Let's get some solder on there. Let's get some gentle rubbing on there. Clean it up. It's really dirty here. This is definitely going to need some ultrasonic cleaning. I have no idea how I'm going to fit this in the ultrasonic cleaner. I mean, this thing is so big. I will probably be able to get maybe. I probably won't be able to clean the middle of it. I'll probably be able to clean the two ends. So, and I'll just have to get creative with the rest of it. A bit of flux cleaner and some isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush and all that sort of stuff. It won't fit in my heater either, and my little toaster oven. So I'm going to have to dry this in the household oven. It requires being extremely careful to make sure that no one accidentally comes along and turns the heat up and starts preheating the oven for cooking a pizza. And board gets melted. Okay, moving right along. Don't like the idea of making a crippled machine on purpose. Yeah, I would agree with that. Deliberate 10 megabytes of RAM, yeah. Oh, and you got to remember that when it came to the LC, they were not wanting to compete with their other models. They had lots and lots of different models of computer out there. They didn't want to be in a situation where a professional could look and say, you know what, we don't need to spend that extra $1,000. We'll just get an LC. It'll be fine. We'll load it up with RAM and away we go. And Apple like, no. You want extra RAM, you got to spend the extra dollars. You buy an LC, we're going to cap you at 10 meg. So you can see why they did it. It made sense. I mean, they had by this stage they had lots of different tiers of their computers. So okay, I'm way behind on the chat here, by the way. Quad 605 or LC475, they come up all the time. MacBoy 91 SI. That flux doesn't look like Amtech, sir. It is Amtech, but it's the other stuff. So it's not the normal Amtech that I use. It's a different type of Amtech, and it's designed for use on with lead-free solder as well as leaded solder, and I hate it. But I have it, and I got it for free, so I use it for cleaning. I won't use it for when I put the components on the board. I'll use the clearer stuff for that. But yeah, it is Amtech. It's just a very different type. Okay, well, I think that's all of them, but having said that, usually when I say that, I look at the board and go, oh, I've missed one. So let's just do a little quick count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did I count that one already? 10, 11, 12, 13. There is a 14th one, but I can't see it. I may have already counted it. We'll see. I better get my guide. Let's get my guide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right. 800 in April for $100 plus shipping. Believe it or not, that is a good. No, I don't think the 800 was the fastest 68K Mac. Isn't the 840? So. Okay, so. It's a great price, by the way, for an 800. It's absolutely fantastic. I would have loved to get an 800. Yeah. I definitely agree that it is a dog trick to cap those LCs at 10 megabytes. I mean, you can see why they did it, but I hate it. Yes, 800 was a 33 megahertz, whereas the 840 was a 40 megahertz. Right, okay. So, we've done all the cleaning part. Now it's time to put the capacitors on. We're all familiar with this process. We've done it many times before. Unless, of course, you're watching this for the first time, in which case you haven't done it many times before, and it'll be exciting every minute of every second of it. So, let's start. I am going to start with the surface mount. I have decided that I'm going to use these other pads because I just think they are way more suitable for the capacitors we're going to put on there. So we'll be left with the other ones being the empty ones, which will be fine. Let's grab some capacitors. As usual, I do recap using tantalum capacitors. And that. Now, all of the surface mounts are 47 microfarad, 16 volt. So, Yep, there we go. Okay, so let's start. I don't pull all the caps out at the same time, because as I've explained to people many times before, I have capacitor fairies in here. And if I grab too many capacitors at the one time, I put them in a little pile, and then the capacitor fairies come away and steal them. So that I don't have to buy, more capacitors than I need, I only grab a couple of caps at a time, and I keep a close eye on them so the capacitor fairies don't steal them. Okay, we are going to have the stripe facing the plus. I've mentioned this before, that perfect fit. Look at that. Bloody awesome. I like this. Is the good part. Let's get this nice and straight here. So I just need some concentration here, so brain's just switched off for a sec. Yes, so surface mount electrolytic capacitors have a stripe, or all electrolytic capacitors for that matter, or aluminium ones. They have what are those things called? They have the stripe on the negative side, whereas these ones here have the stripe on the positive side. I just want to clean this up. Just want to clean up. Oh man, someone's cooking pies or something. It smells awesome. I'm hungry. Should I just take this bloody thing off and clean the pads? That'll do. I won't. That'll do. Ah, dear, too fussy. Oh, what's happened? Just dozing off, and the little song brought me round. Dana, wake up! But a list of what thought would be better machines than what they made at the time. I would have the 682 and the classic, and the 68030, 16 DLC, 25 megahertz, and the 2SI. Yeah, the 2SI should have always had 25 megahertz. Let's face it. And of course, it's not hard to make your 2SI 25 megahertz. I have a video of that on my channel. That's what I have done to mine. And it is noticeably faster, in particular when you're running like speed tests and stuff like that. You can see it. Oh God, did someone? Oh, phew. God, I thought the capacitor fairies had come in. Let your guard down. All right. Oopsie. 25 viewers at the moment. Hello to those 25 people. Thank you for sticking with us. I am intending to start this up when I finish recapping. So hopefully that will provide at least some level of reward. Keeping in mind, of course, the last few streams that I've had, things haven't worked afterwards. So just want to set some expectations. There we go. Is that a valid way of cleaning pins? Oh, hang on. I've got to go. What are we looking at here? Where are we? It's great after. Which is a valid way of cleaning pins? Sorry. Just like doing that rubbing and stuff that I was doing there before. The dual pads are nice. Yes, I mean, look, the thing is that when this is finished, this is all going to look like it was made this way. This is all going to look, you know, it's not going to look like a recap job. It's just going to look like it was always that way, which is great. Let's get some solder. I'm noticing that these joints take quite a lot more solder than the other ones, because the other ones are much smaller pads, so I'm having to use a little bit more solder on this. But I can do that. I can adapt. One thing I can't adapt is this bloody huge board. Looking good. I like it. Looking out of focus. Adding flux and solder. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I sometimes, depending on how bad the pins are on a chip, I might end up scraping them a little bit, try and get some of that external corrosion off. But it's basically just heat and flux and solder, just trying to get the coating. It's essentially getting whatever it is on those pins, making them nasty if they're grubby. If you're talking about like a dip chip, I may not do it that way, but certainly with a PLCC chip, I would do it that way. And we've got another one. I'm loving these pads. Let's get some more capacitors. Might put a few on. Might put a few on just for a bit of fun. The chat is definitely moving at a rate that's just a little bit faster than my brain will tolerate at the moment. So just be warned, if anyone is sending things through and they are specifically wanting to ask me or mention something to me or something like that, if I don't respond, feel free to just send it again.
Now this one's going to be a little bit tricky because the other side of this is right next to some plastic. So I'm going to want to solder this on without melting that plastic. I may have to get a smaller, what do you call the thing? Tip for that. This is so weird. I'm just not used to putting these things on these gigantic pads. I'm so used to working with little tiny pads of the electrolytic ones. It's sort of a totally different experience for recap for me. Now, will this fit in here? Nope. Okay, let's get a thinner thingy. I might try this one. This one might work. This one's not hot at the moment, so I'll put it in here. I think that one, yeah, that should go in there quite well. This is a bent conical tip. I like it bent because it has the nice little surface area you can work with there. Was the last cap I did the right way around? There's that one. And there's this one. Yes. Stripe was away from the positive. C48, you think? C48? So that's C43. So that's the positive there. And there. And that's the stripe for the positive there. So it'll be a trick of the light. I do believe I've got it right. Keeping in mind, of course, I do check them all at the end. Now, can I squeeze that in there? And beautiful. Beautiful. Back to the other one. Okay, what do we got here? Everyone seems to be contently talking to themselves, talking amongst themselves there, which is great. Let's continue. I've got to speed this up. My goodness, I'm going to be here all day. I'll tell you what. I'll do a little bit of mass fluxing here. Squeege, 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 squeege. Right, and up here. Mamma mia. Okay, let's continue. And then, who's texting me? Oh, that's right. Getting chatter from the Maciac group. And what would I say to that? I would say, come on, guys, why aren't you watching this exciting live stream? Worldwide Developer Conference 2020, not far away. The Maciac crew will be doing a special show commenting on whatever happens at the Worldwide Developer Conference. So that will be, what is it, Monday night Eastern at 8 p.m, which for me is Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. But yes, we will be chatting about whatever happens at the WWDC 2020. And Bruce will wake up at 3 a.m. to watch it live. It's looking that way. I don't know what that will do to me for the rest of the day. But yeah, could be interesting. Could be very interesting. And I don't know whether to go to bed early and then get up at 3, or do I stay up late until 3 and then go to sleep or something. I don't know. I don't know what to do. It's weird. Pursuits of a younger man. Because I'm old these days. It's very difficult for me. This is just getting out of hand. I'm not even looking in the microscope view. Sorry, folks. Okay, my hands are getting a little bit sticky. I probably should have worn some gloves. Highly recommend wearing gloves when you're doing this sort of stuff. I'm not wearing gloves at the moment because I'm a rebel. Rebellious old man. Oopsie. There we go. Scope cam off. Yes, I know. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, look, I do apologise for how long this has gone on, but we are getting there. We are getting there. I am trying to speed up this last process because, once again, it is just lots and lots of repetition, but it is necessary repetition in order for us to get this to a state where we can test it. I'll tell you one thing, I won't be live streaming another 2FX because too long. I think this has to go back again. There we go. I'm just doing one side and then I'll flip the board around and do the other side. I think it's going to be quicker and easier that way. I am right-handed, which means that I sort of can't really get around this side here. I need to hold the cap with the tweezers with my left hand and then solder with my right hand. Bing. Which one's bank A and which one's bank B? Bank A. There, I found that. It's nice and clearly labelled. Looking at the RAM there. Okay, well, I did that. Got these stupid ones in the corner. How am I going to get to these? How? Let's hold it that way and hang this out here. Contorting myself here. Okay. I'm doing my best to get the view in here, but I have a much larger field of view in my microscope than on the camera. And so sometimes I do things that are not in view, and I apologize for that. But when you've got a board that is this big and cumbersome, there's just going to be some times where it's going to just be a little bit difficult for me to show you everything. I really want to let out expletives right now. But it's a live stream. Want to be nice. Okay. Yeah, we've got a few Aussies in here. The ones that I know of, obviously Oz Retro Comp, Dana Sobera, Jojo Brubaker. Any others? Any other Aussies in there? Me, of course. I am from Sydney. Well, let's see if we can get that on there. Oh, I'm really struggling. There we go. Got it. Got it. Got it. Saying goodbye to my wife. She's just heading off to the shops. Okay. Looking. I didn't do both sides of all of these. See how that one I didn't do both sides of. Ah, Stephen Barlow. From across the ditch. Welcome. My wife is from New Zealand. Yep. Doo. All right. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit quiet here. I've got my eye on the prize here. British text. Okay, so people are just chatting amongst themselves about different parts of the world. I have to say, though I do not say this to be critical of any other countries in the world, I do very much like being in Australia. I really don't have too many complaints. I mean, I have complaints, but they're mainly just whinges. I don't think any country is perfect, but as I say, quite happy here. There was an interesting, there was a comment in there where someone said there are two types of countries, those who use the metric system and those that have walked on the moon. And it's interesting to point out that NASA actually used the metric system, so it's kind of an odd argument to make. They certainly didn't at the time that they walked on the moon, but they have been using the metric system for a long time at NASA. Did some work for NASA at one stage. For NASA. That's some software. Come on. Get in there. This is looking like we're nearly there. Now, what are we looking at here? Jay is definitely not a big fan of the spiders, but I have to say that it's not really a big issue. Over here, I mean, sure, there are some nasty spiders, but is that 47 microfarads, 16 volt? So they had a tantalum on there, 4716. 16, so they obviously decided one of them was better off as a tantalum than an electrolytic. So let me just count these because there are just so many and they're all over the board. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've missed one, haven't I? 1, 2. It's a lot easier to do with my guide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Missed one. Last one. Yes, this board is indeed huge, Michael. That's because it is a Macintosh IIfx. And the Macintosh 2, the IIfx, and 2X, gigantic boards. And then if you want to see even bigger, Quadra 900 and 950. Okay. These fumes getting to me. Or maybe I got the Rona. This, in theory, is the last capacitor. Surface mount capacitor, last surface mount capacitor. Still got a few axials to do. Oh man. My bum's getting sore. I love the look of, I can't see it there. I love that, the look of the solder when you get that little shiny wave in it there, where it's sort of coming down, like creating like a little buttress support there. Love it. So let's try that count again, shall we? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 14 caps. I am now going to do my normal check with these. 30 viewers. Have I got 30 viewers? 29. I've got it here. That's amazing. I really did not expect the number to go up. I thought it was going to... Maybe people just left and decided to come back so they can see me start it up at the end. Okay, so how much bigger is the 900 than a 950 board? It's around about an inch and a half longer that way. And these little gaps here, we have these little gaps. There aren't those gaps on the 900. So the 950 board is just that size with about an extra inch on the end, inch and a half. So, we're discussing sort of metric and imperial over there. Yeah. I think probably one of the main things between the two systems, and certainly one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the metric system, is the kind of the symmetry, the fact that it is, you know, sort of, you know, what is it, 10. So you got like sort of 100 centimeters in a meter. You got 1,000 meters in a kilometer. You know, there's this kind of nice round numbers rather than having sort of weird sort of amounts. You know, sort of how many ounces in a pound. You know, that sort of stuff. They're all kind of odd numbers there. I also like the fact that it works also with volume and weight. So you have, for example, 1 millimeter cubed is 1 milliliter in fluid and weighs 1 gram. So if it's water, obviously it's going to weigh a different amount if you've got lead, but if we are talking about water, so 1 milliliter of water is 1 gram. So yeah, 250 milliliters, or, you know, 1 liter of water weighs 1 kilogram. So all right, anyhow. I have got to go through and check that I've put all... I don't have to worry about the types of capacitors because they're all 47s. But I do have to make sure I've got them all around the right way. So I'm checking that now. Plus, 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 plus. I think that's it. Check and make sure that I soldered both sides of all of them. Deal. Yep. Sorry, this is again another dull part of the process. And then last of all is we've just got to put some axials in place. Nice and easy. Let's start off with the little one, the little tiny one, 10 microfarad, 16 volt. I definitely do not have one of them, but I've got same capacitance, different voltage, and same size, so it'll fit in there. 10, wasn't it? 10? There we go. Oopsie daisy. A little axial cap here. Half a Bernie of flux. Yeah, Bernie versus a Rossmann of flux, yeah. Okay, so that's going there. Let's just, I want to check and see where I need to bend these pins, almost at the cap. So there's a... When I put these capacitors on, because I am a nice person, I always like to put them on so that you can read the capacitance rating on the board. Some people put them with all the writing facing downwards and then you can't see them. For someone working on a computer, that's a real pain in the backside. So I always make sure that I bend the pins so that the writing will be visible. Let's pop that on there. Let's bend some pins and let's solder some axials. Yay! There's a pigeon on the roof. What is up there? Whatever it is, very heavy-footed. Okay, let's have a look here. Yeah, someone just sort of mentioned the idea of the old British measurement names and stuff like that. I like every now and again surprising people. Someone says, you know, oh, do you know how far away that is? Yeah, it's about 12 furlongs that way. £14 in a stone. Ah, excellent. We're back onto computers down here. Thank you for that, Shermanic. My first computer, Mac IIfx, wonderful machine. Certainly wasn't mine because they were way too expensive. What on earth is that? Thank goodness. Yeah, my very first Mac that I bought with my own money. I mean, I think I got maybe given a Mac Plus or something from the place I worked at. But the very first Mac that I bought with my own money, which I bought, would have been around about 1992, maybe 91, 92. It was a Macintosh II. That was the very first one that, you know, I was working with Macs a lot. But in terms of actually my own Mac, that was my first Mac, a Mac II. It was secondhand. I can't remember what I paid for it. It was a lot of money. But, you know, it was secondhand. I wanted a modular one. I wanted to be able to stick display cards in it and everything like that. So that was our 10 microfarad gone in. Now we are going to do a 220 microfarad. Where are the rest of my axials? Here they are. 220, it's originally a 16. I'll probably stick a 25 in there. 220, 220, 25. 3 3 hours and no Bernadette. She's the whole reason I'm here. I'm sorry. Chickens are their own thing. You know, they don't sort of take command very well. She's out there doing her own thing. It rained last night, and often when it rains, the ground gets damp, and that aids them in sort of digging it up and finding little critters. So often when it's been raining, they just get out there and scavenge. Excuse me. And yes, I am actually surprised that after 3 hours we haven't seen her at all. And I am also surprised, just let me say this, I'm also surprised this hasn't been going for 3 hours. I did not expect that. I thought 2 hours we're done, no worries, recapping, it'll be easy. Boy, oh boy, this has been a job and a half. But we are so close to completion here. I do, of course, need to pop up and get that other board from the house, which will only take me a moment to do. Oh, just don't like the look of that. Do not like the look of that. Look at that trace. Oh, no, you can't see it. This happens rather a lot lately, doesn't it? Okay, so look at that. Corrosion there. I'm sure we'll still be okay. I'll be able to get solder to stick to it. That's fine. But then look at this. Okay, it's still good. Yep, still got copper. Right, so let's see if we can get solder to stick to this. I rest them on the board, Jay. I do actually rest the axials on the board. So I put them flat on the board, and then and then bend the pins a little bit, and then solder them like that. So no, I don't let them float off the board a little bit. The originals certainly weren't floating off the board, so I'm quite happy to have them flush. Off. I might just solder this a little bit on this side because of the way that pin looked on the other side. So I'll get some solder on this side too. Just like this. Looking good. Looking good. Okay. And then we have 3 470s. One of that classic instead of doing my driver's license. How did you ever end up in a situation where you were weighing those two things up? 470, 16. I'm going to put 25s on probably because they're about the same size. Yep, they're about the same size. 470 25s. It's going to be hard getting these all lined up looking neat and tidy together. So 470 16 pluses that way, minus that way. These electrolytics, they always have the big stripe pointing towards the negative. That's nice and easy. There's 1. And here is 2. Oopsie. 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 Got solder going through that one. Where's my wick? Yes, I'll do. It's better. Okay. My very first computer actually was a Dick Smith VZ300, which you'd be forgiven if you don't know what that is, because Dick Smith was an electronics chain in this country during the 1980s. And the VZ200, sorry, was a variation on the laser, I think. And yeah, it was very cheap. At the time, you know, I was interested in computers, and of course my parents had very little interest in computers. So I was having to kind of justify to them the idea of spending money on a computer. And, you know, they didn't really see, you know, I mean, like, it'd be like me sort of, I don't know, asking for a skateboard or something like that. Yeah, so we got this one. I can't remember how it was, like $99 or something silly like that. And 8 kilobytes of RAM. We've got a 16 kilobyte expansion. Used a tape drive. I used a tape, you know, like cassette tape to store applications and a few games and stuff. Interestingly enough, my parents got into computers as well. So after I was using it a bit, and they started to see the value in using them, and then we ended up getting an Apple IIe eventually, and then traded that up eventually for a Classic, and then we got an 030 accelerator in that Classic, and now my mother uses an iMac, and it's a hand-me-down from me because I have lots and lots of iMacs. Okie dokie. Okay. Oh, hang on, Tech Music's talking about this. My first week. It's absolutely ugly. I hate the fact it works. Yep. UE8 swap on that as well. So do you replace it with the new UE8? Or is it you able to just clean the old one? Tech and Music. There's my 3 470s. Yeah. Let's see if I can get them perfectly equidistant. There we go. Very nice. And then we have one last one, which is a 1000 microfarad 10 volt. I don't think I have a 10, but I'm pretty sure I have a 16. Oh, I do have a 10. Let me just check. 1010. Look at that. Yep, it'll have to be a 10. I don't have a 25, so that's okay. It's what the original spec was. 1000 microfarad 10 volt. Okay. Okay, and that one goes there. This is so much smaller than the original. 1010. Right, let's hope that I bent those pins in the right spot. Almost. A little bit too long. Let's try that now. I do like them to be neat. There we go. Spot on. Okay, this is the last capacitor, folks. Start getting excited. You know, I've got another one of these to do. Not now, but I do have another one of these to do. And the other one's got really bad battery damage as well, so that one's going to take me even longer. Yippee. Can't see anything with my goggles on. Maybe go for the 16 volt just to have the size more closely match up. It would be good if I had a 16 volt, but I've only got a 10. I don't think I have a 1000. I mean, I've got 1010 in through hole. Sorry, not through hole, through radial, but not in axial. I mean, I will double check, but yeah, no, actually, I did check that before. I know I don't. So, all right, so all the capacitors on. We do need to put the battery holders back on because I need the batteries to start the thing up. Well, I don't actually, but because the power, I don't actually have an original power supply for this. The only power supply I've got is one that bypasses the startup circuit. So I will have to test the startup circuit sort of differently. How important is it to recap the Mac Classic analog board? On a scale of 1 to 10, about 12. Very important. They leak terribly. And if you leave them too long, because they're quite large capacitors that leak, they leak a lot of electrolyte. And then they can then cause incredible amounts of corrosion. So yeah, very. Oh, gotta go. Take this out of my pocket. It's hurting my backside. Okay. LC, the old LC, all the LCs, they need their power supplies done too. All right, so quick little check here. That's that. That's minus this. That's good. Minus it's plus. That's minus and it's plus. That is plus, plus, plus. That is minus, minus, minus. Okay, so I'm confident that everything is in place. So I may not put the battery holders on just yet because I think I'd like to clean them first. But we will just go in and test and see whether we get any chime happening from the power supply. So let's just start off here by getting a speaker and connecting it to here. Our little J19, which is for the speaker. I am then going to need, well, it's a start, I suppose. At the very start, we can just do that. We just work with a chime to start off with. Now I need to find the power supply. Is this it? This is it. Okay. This is my Macintosh IIfx power supply that I have modded. No, it isn't. This is my 2CI power supply. 2CI 2SI power supply. I need to find the other one. Okay. All right. Where is it? Not this one. Where have I put it? It's not with my power supplies. Which means it's probably fallen off. All right, I'm going to go check this here very quickly. So just bear with me. Oh, missing component. I will be right back. I'm just going to go see if I can get the other board and find what the situation is with the missing component. Back in a second. I'm back. Got another board here, another 2FX board, and there is absolutely no doubt about the fact that there is a component that is missing.
unless there are like two versions of this board. So just to recap, people, we did find a missing component just here. The one weird thing about it was the pad didn't look like it was a torn component. It looked like the, what do you call it, the adhesive? Looked like it had a component there, but the pad didn't, so it was kind of weird. But anyhow, let's have a look. What is the benefit of having the 2FX require a second battery in order to boot? That I couldn't tell you. The benefit of it, I don't know. It is necessary to have it there, but I don't know why the 2 and the 2X and the 2FX used a second battery. Oh, sorry, used a battery for the boot up, in particular when you didn't say for the 2CI. Okay, so what have we got here? I've got A4, one A4. That should be hopefully pretty easy to find. 1A3, 1A4. Okay, now of course I can go in and measure what this is if I want. I've got a little measury thingy here. Shall we? Shall we? Just for a little bit of fun. I'm going to take this component off and I'm going to measure it. Generally, I think, you know, the A4, let me just have a look. I'll have a look. I'll look it up. We'll go here. 1A4 surface mount capacitor. And see if it can tell me what. It's capacitor codes and markings. There we go. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Anyone? 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 Bueller? Okay. One A4. Fine A4. Spotty. Did the screen go black or is it me? Oh, it did. You know why it goes black? I'll tell you why it goes black. It's because I have quick keys for changing the screen, and then when I jump across onto a browser and I start typing away, blah, 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 I type away and I accidentally change screens. So I need to have those quick keys set up as keys that I don't use for other things, don't I? And of course, it does it when you're in any app at all. So when I've got OBS running in the background, even if I move to a different app, when I press those keys, it still works. So this is not helping here. A4. So A4. A4 sign identification. Whoopsie. There we go. 10 nanofarad. No, that doesn't sound right. Anyhow, we'll take it off and we'll measure it. May as well. Let's just be safe. Okay, so I'm going to just grab this one here. I should be able to grab another one off a donor board. I have lots of donor boards. For anyone who's not familiar with the term donor board, it's basically when you have a board which is beyond help, cannot be repaired, and I didn't change across to the microscope there, sorry. You have a board that cannot be saved, and let's put this here. It can't be saved, and you just keep the board salvaged for parts. So let's just hold that component there in place. Hopefully I can get that. Might flip it over. There we go. I'll hold it there like that. Oh, crap! Don't you hate it when that happens? Let it go. Organ donor with a better shelf life like that. Okay. So where did that component go? This could be a problem for solving later in the day.
I don't want to crawl. I really don't want to crawl around on the floor right now. Let's grab another one.
I'll be more careful with this one. I promise I'll be more careful with this one. Okay. I have got some real space issues here at the moment. There we go. So, let's try that again, shall we? Okay, I'm going to turn this on. (10,000 picofarads). That's what it's testing. It is showing me 9691 picofarads. Okay. At least I didn't lose that one. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take it off this board, and then I will search for a donor from another board another time. Well, it will just be a lot quicker and easier to get this complete. So, up goes this one. Let's get this component in its home, which is going to be right there. Just there. Someone just sent me a rather funny little message. Made me giggle. Thank you to that person who sent me the funny message. You definitely made me laugh. Okay, let's see if we can get this looking a little bit nicer. I'm going to do that by putting some flux on here, and then I'm going to get my hot air station. I might just turn the air flow down a little bit. I'm going to apply some heat here with the flux, and what will happen when that solder melts, the surface tension of the solder will just pull that capacitor in place, just like that. Nice and neat. Way better than the one next to it. Look at that. Rubbish. Alright, so now we really can test it. That's an awful noise. Alright, let's get that there. Components back in place. I do need to find the power supply. I'm just going to very quickly do my little be right back image, only because I'm likely to make some strange noises as I lean over and try and grab this. So give me about 20 seconds and I've just got to find this power supply. Found it. Okay, so here's my power supply. I've got my little pins here for connecting it up. So let's just go in the side view here. I'll connect this up to some power. There's my little markings here to show the way that goes on. Like that. What are the ones at the end for? They're not needed, are they? Come on. You can do this. I've done this before. I've done this with a Macintosh II.
And don't tell me you're not going to work. There we go. There we go. Right. We better put some RAM and a ROM in it. ROM goes into the ROM. RAM goes into the RAM. Once again, I'm not connecting batteries up to this because I am bypassing the startup circuit this way. RAM. Oh, get in there, you little thing, you. Why so difficult? What am I doing wrong here? There we go. Right, we've got some RAM in. We've got a ROM in. We've connected some power. We need to connect a speaker. All right, taking bets. What do you reckon? Is it going to start? Is it going to chime? We'll find out as soon as I plug this in, because there's no switch on this one at all. It'll just start. Or will it? No, it won't, because this is the guy that needs to be connected here. He's come undone. Where was he connected? I think he was just wired to that. So this little cable needs to be touching ground. Let me just do that quickly. Yeah, preferably no smoke. I agree with that. Okay, let's see what happens. Are we ready? Ready. Oh, hang on. Something tells me I might have... Do you reckon? Ah, look at that. That needs to be tacked on the end as well. So, we ready? This is kind of nerve-wracking, actually, I have to admit. Well, it definitely made a noise. Didn't chime, but it definitely made a noise. I'm pressing the power button for no apparent reason, but definitely got a little tickle when I press the restart button. So, what if I connect up? Let me just disconnect this for a moment. Oh, actually, I should check and see whether they're getting any heat. Yeah, I can definitely feel the CPU getting a little warm. I should probably connect up a display. Okay, let me have a look. A total ROM, yes, but not the same as the Mac 2. It takes 64 pin. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so no smoke. It's good. Definitely signs of life. We're definitely not there yet in terms of working. I'm not going to just keep going with this stream until it's finished or anything like that, because that would just, that's too much to ask of folks. But what am I looking for? I'm looking for this. Well, that one. Oh, I'll tell you what I do need. I need bits. Just hang on. I need one of these. I need one of these. This is really cumbersome. I need this. I can't see that. There we go. Oh dear. open up a little screen here. Just want to see if I get anything out of the display. Probably won't, but I'll check anyway. Is that a Model ATX PSU? Yes, it is. Okay, let's just put that there. And let's just power this up again and see if it does anything. There is actually it's getting power or something like that. It's not starting up, but I can actually see a rectangular black section in the middle there. So it's definitely not starting, but that would suggest that there is some sort of output coming from the display card here. So we're part of the way. We're definitely not there 100% yet, but we are part of the way. Certainly got. I would like to give this a good clean because there's lots of scunge on it. And I would like to give it a really close look at all of the traces, because we did see quite a lot of corroded traces there at the beginning, and I want to check and make sure that, you know, the rest of them are okay. Look out for any others. I'm just having a look here. I've got my little this little guy here, which is a heat camera, and what I might do is just connect that up to my phone and have a quick look. Okay, so what did I just don't check what happens. I'm seeing. Okay, no worries. Okay, so I'm just going to just check and see if what was it? It's this is a FLIR FLIR camera, and switch it on, and I just want to have a look at this with thermals to just see if anything looks like it's getting hot. It's a little bit hard to share this here because it's sort of, I mean, I will show you, but you know, you get that sort of that view from from what's it called, Terminator. So let's have a look here. Okay, so I can clearly see areas of warm here. Let me just okay, so we're getting some heat. Definitely getting some heat. And that's just reflection. Sometimes you end up just getting reflections. So heat coming from that, heat coming from that. It's not really bad heat, but it's definitely, that's probably the hottest thing there at the moment. That's getting up to, yeah, probably about 30 C, something like that. Getting some heat along here along the new bus. There is nothing here which I would consider to be dangerous heat or anything like that, like the sort of heat you might expect from, say, a short or something like that. So yeah, not too bad. But anyhow, this is how it looks here. You can see the areas that are white are the hot parts, and then I can just put little crosshairs over it and it'll tell me what the temperature is. So at that particular location, a little bit hard to see, but anyhow. Okay, so I am going to switch this off and I'm going to wrap up the stream now, and I do apologize to folks that we didn't end up with this starting up. I am fairly confident that I will be able to start it up with a little bit of extra work, but the next steps that I need to follow are just going to be sort of kind of real slow, looking over it, checking it, cleaning it, that sort of stuff. So but I would like to thank everyone for joining. Let me put this away in its little thingy because they're spancy. Yep. Okay, so that power supply situation is making me nervous. What, the power supply sitting up there, balancing up at the top there, yeah, it was making me nervous too. Let me just whip these off. Take some pics and share them on your Facebook. Yes, so generally with these, when I have, you know, repairs that haven't worked,
if I am successful after the stream, which I usually am, I generally like to take a pic or a video and post it on my Brankus Creations Facebook page. So I would invite anyone here who has been following this intently and wants some closure about this to please, you know, sort of jump onto Facebook, jump onto my Brankus Creations Facebook page, like it, and I will put notifications on there. So I will just sort of check here. Charles Gascoigne, who is a customer of mine. Hello, Charles. Thank you for joining in the stream. I do appreciate it. Okay. Yes, that's correct. There is no there's no Brankus Creation Discord, but there is a Macyak one, and I do check it. So if you're on there and you want to ask questions, or if you want to sort of check out stuff, please feel free to join the Macyak Discord. Okay, so anyhow, look, that's it. I do apologise, folks, that we didn't get a nice loud bong or startup screen or anything like that. I am still quite confident that is something that I will get in the not too distant future. So I will be playing around with this a little bit more now, but I'm going to close off the stream so that I can sort of concentrate on it without having to prattle on. I've also got a fair bit of cleaning to do, and I do want to wash this, and I have an ultrasonic cleaner with no liquid in it, so I've got to go deal with that now. So thank you to everyone who has watched. Thank you everyone who has persevered. It's a very long stream. It's got to be one of my longest to date. Sitting on about 29 viewers at the moment. So those who are watching, I do appreciate it. Yeah, once again, sorry for the lack of closure. And I will be streaming again probably next weekend. You know, probably in about a week's time thereabouts. If people haven't liked the video, please like it. If you're watching this and you enjoy it and might want to watch some of my stuff in the future, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. And I will say farewell, and I will hopefully see you at the next one. So, bye all.